do I become the best version of me? Raised by certain degrees, they say I'm blurting disease, cause I spit anti-establishment. This is battleship, I'm calling your number and letter, and I only do it to make you better. Negative mindsets just won't let up, and I'm constantly battling my predecessors, cause I get too fed up of the same when the same brings pain. Locks and chains reduce the potential of human brains. I'm too insane, at least it's what they label me. I'd rather be labeled as crazy than stuck in the matrix. I got Asia chasing cause I'm making these statements. I'm participating in the emancipation of a nation under interrogation. See my determination as you turn in these pages. I will never ever be degraded. They want me to dumb it down. They say the industry ain't ready for too pure of a sound, for too pure of a heart, for too much empathy. I will give it all till I empty me. This is my manifest destiny. Preferably dropping bombs over melodies. You feel it heavily, you're telling me. Watch out. But it brings a resistance. Please don't miss this. Consequence vicious. We need to destroy the traumas. Go back and heal for a better tomorrow. Face the pain that you want to avoid. Stick out your chest and raise up your voice. I will not bend. I will not break. Stand in my place and I won't be swayed. Mark my words, lives will be saved. And even after I die, my legacy will remain. My emotions run amok, I'm out of luck. What the flying flip is going on? I say I'm a king, but I'm showing porn. My logic feels intoxicated. No love left cause my heart's been raided. Feeling jaded, want me medicated. Feeling like a fish cause I'm hooked and baited. And I can't find peace. I become my own worst enemy. Sipping Hennessy, feeling dead in me. If my pain were a woman, gotta let her free. But she's holding on with a grip of death. The pain gets worse with every breath. I just wanna keep you in the dark so low. You feel it in your soul. Never see the light of day. You say, yeah, I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I don't like who I become. What have I done? I'm going numb, ain't having fun. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. Crazy is as crazy does. I catch myself trying to flirt with Lady Luck, but she just curves me. I'm worried, vision's blurry, feeling like death's coming early. You never get rid of me, even when you say that you're getting sick of me. Painted so vividly, making you sickening, feeling with misery, burning like Listerine. I spit on your grave, I'm taking control until you misbehave. The pain comes in waves, today I'm a slave. A trophy to gain, I'll put you on display. And laugh at your misfortune, laughing at your tears pouring, laughing at attempts of ignoring. Pieces foreign, the more you fight, the more you let me more in. This can't be life. Doc, help me out, I can no longer fight. I'm crying uncontrollably, I need a hold of me. What's life supposed to be? And I'm feeling suicidal. All my rivals got me quitting on survival. My heart needs some mend. I don't wanna kill myself, just want the pain to end. But this feels like an uphill battle. I see your misery with a broken paddle. I've journaled, have addictions. There's a hole in me cause something's missing. I'm in prison, in my mind. Gotta heal what's been left behind. EMDR, whatever it takes. If I don't see change, I swear I'm gonna break. I just wanna keep you in the dark so low. You feel it in your soul. Never see the light of day. You say, yeah, I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I don't like who I become. What have I done? I'm going numb, ain't having fun. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. I think I'm going crazy, 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 crazy. Keep hope alive. 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 Watch you do my word, working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my word, sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my word, hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my word, cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my word, watch you working harder than it ever did. Spitting from the hearts of people that feeling irrelevant. Spitting for the hell of it, embracing all the elements. Music having content that'll challenge your intelligence. This ain't for the faint to the heart. Mature folks thinking that I'm way too smart. Too mature for my age, wanna put me in the grave, but I need a safe face, cause I'm running my race. Running my race, even overweight. But you see me overweight, cause I'm stealing off your plate. And I'm feeling so great, even though I make mistakes. Do whatever it takes to make winning the Mason race. But you would never bury me. Talking bad about the man is like kerosene. On fire like kerosene, apparently my words are like therapy. Watch you do my word, working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my word, sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my word, hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my word, cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my word. I don't look like a rapper, what they look like, what they sound like, why they sound right. I'm too busy cruising in my lane, I don't need to buy fame, and this is why I came to put in work in the hearts of man. There's nothing harder than I like a martyr can. Watch you do my work, watch you do it well. Been through hell and I'm telling a story that's so compelling. It's got me screaming and yelling, negative is a repellent, and ain't no dreams I'm selling, cause I guess I know I'm rebelling. I work hard, you can tell, full of heart, raise a hell, cause you're gonna see me rock the scene like prophecy on a lock and key. It's gotta be something to write home about, cause I work with pride, I got a fire inside. Watch you do my word, working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my word, sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my word, hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my word, cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my word, work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you do my word, working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my word, sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my word, hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my word, cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my word, working hard to achieve my dreams, it's harder than it seems. Watch you do my word, sky's the limit, gotta hit it till you fit it, revel in it. Watch you do my word, hungry for change to have my name known, cause I say so while the days go. Watch you do my word, cause I stand for a purpose. Watch you work this, cause I'm worth it. Watch you do my word, work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that work, work, work. Watch you do my work, work, work. Watch you put in that. We have a problem. Uh-oh, there's a problem in the industry. You probably didn't think too many people would be into me. You want carbon copies? Well, I'm sorry to disappoint. It's a breaking point. Words so absurd that I'm breaking joints. Who's this brother in a suit jacket think he is? Don't he know that rappers ain't taking this serious? It's all about making hits, lyrics to the side. Humility isn't welcome cause we're talking about pride. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Therapy Thursdays. I'm really happy you're here. Therapy Thursdays is where we bring the therapist to you. I am your host, Marcus Alexander Velasquez, and I am very grateful and humbled that you would join us today for today's episode. Therapy Thursdays is where we bring therapists to you. We introduce you to real life licensed therapists who do this on a daily basis. These people have studied therapy, they have administered therapy, they have their own practices, they have tons of clients. This is the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. I love being the host of this show. I personally host this show and created this show because I have a history of therapy. I've been through therapy about 6 or 7 years or so. Didn't really keep full count, but have grown tremendously from it. I've gotten so much out of therapy. I've been able to heal from some past traumas. I've been able to grow as a person. My relationships have started thriving because I'm better. So if I'm better, my relationships are better. I'm able to stand up for myself and know who I am and know what I deserve. And I want the same for you guys. So I know therapy is a wonderful tool. I'm living proof of it. So this show is meant to introduce you to real life therapists, give you a taste of therapy. This show in itself is not therapy. I want to make that clear. But we talk about therapeutic topics. We talk about mental health topics. And this is to introduce you to the world of therapy. Every week we have a different topic. And, some people know nothing about therapy. This show is for you. Some people have a misrepresentation or misunderstanding of what therapy is, especially when things like the media misportray therapy and portray it as a joke, or someone just sitting there constantly asking, well, how does that make you feel? That is not real therapy. And also, the show is meant to inspire you and encourage you to sign up for formal therapy yourself. I firmly believe that every person walking the face of this earth should have a therapist, and I believe every therapist should have a therapist. So I love this show. I learned so much. Obviously, I come to the table with some knowledge, but I myself am not a licensed therapist. I'm just a big fan, and I know this is an amazing tool, and I want to get it to as many people as possible. So I'm glad you're here. If you're joining us on YouTube, please click like, subscribe, please leave comments. One of the best things about the show is our constant Q&A section. So if you have any questions for our therapist, you get answers live in real time from a licensed therapist for free. If you know where that happens somewhere else, please let me know, because I don't know where else that happens, which is why I created this show. But I love this show. I learn a lot, and hopefully you guys are here to learn a lot as well. Today's topic, we are talking about EMDR. Have you heard of it? More than likely not. I never heard of it until my therapist brought it up, and I do have experience with it, so I'm excited about that. Before I bring our wonderful guest therapist on, I am going to go through our disclaimer as always. This show is for informational purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with the information presented, and myself and all of our guests cannot be held liable for any misuse or misunderstanding of the information presented. Please always consult a trained mental health professional before making any decisions regarding treatment of yourself and others. All right. Now that the legal stuff is out of the way, I am going to bring on our guest. She has been with us before. Our last episode was wonderful. I'm so happy she decided to come back. I will pester her to sign up for more episodes because we love getting access to her beautiful mind. And if you weren't here the first time she was on our show, you are in for a huge blessing. So please help me welcome Melanie Sivley. Hello, Melanie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I hope that that introduction was worthy of your name.
It was so kind. Thank you. And again, I have to say, just hearing the introduction I just want to thank you again for doing this, because there's so much stigma with mental health and therapy and everything. And I was just thinking about how beautiful and how powerful it is that you're helping to break that down. So always, however I can serve, because thank you so much. This is so important what you're doing.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure to do this. It's just great. I love when my biggest happy moment, I guess you can say, with this show is when people tune in live, they get their questions answered, they have those aha moments, and then they reach out and say, how can I connect with a therapist? That, that makes my heart soar.
Yes.
So on that point,
on that topic, if you are joining us on YouTube, if you click on the description below the video, there will be a link to a Google online spreadsheet. That spreadsheet has all the contact information for every single one of our guest therapists. So please utilize that resource, reach out to the therapist, get signed up for therapy. It may be a scary thing, but again, I'm living proof here to tell you it's amazing. Please take that first step. So, Melanie, so happy that you're here again. Can you please, for those who don't know you, give us a little introduction on yourself, who you are, how long you've been in practice, my favorite question, which is what got you interested in therapy in the first place that made you want to become a therapist as well?
Sure. So my big fancy title is I'm a licensed clinical social worker, which doesn't mean anything other than I have the education and then the experience after the education. I'm from Chicago originally. I live in Champaign now, which is middle of cornfields. And what else? I specialize in trauma and dissociation. EMDR is I could do as many times as you want me back to talk about EMDR. I'll talk about it because it's my passion.
Love it.
I think I do have my own therapist. I've been in therapy before. I'll be in therapy again, I'm sure. I'm in recovery. I think I've already said that once. And what made me become a therapist? Like my life, like my childhood, everything. I wish I had an answer other than I just really believe that I was led to this. And this is just who I am and what I'm supposed to do. And I've been in private practice for a little over 10 years. And I started a group practice. It'll be a year next week. So I have a few clinicians working for me now too, which is awesome.
All right. So now you can add boss to the resume.
Right. It's scary. That's the scariest one.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. So I love that you're so passionate about today's topic. That's why you're the one here to talk about it. Let's talk about it. So EMDR, I feel like there's a lot of acronyms in therapy and therapeutic circles. Even I'm glad you explained the 4 letters after your name, because it looks cool. Some people just like being able to say, hey, I have a couple letters after my name. But yeah, so let's get into it. What is EMDR for?
So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which, believe it or not, it took me like 6 months to learn how to say desensitization. Such a big word.
Yes.
And I went to the best place to find like the legit information on it is called EMDRIA. So EMDRIA.org. It's the EMDR International Association, I think. So research, people that are really trained in EMDR, all the download, that's where you go for the information. And I popped over to them. I've done it before to get the big, fancy description of what it, you know what, I don't even understand it. And I do it for a living. So I think I like to explain things like I'm 5 because that's how I have to understand it.
Yes, please.
And so I'll say EMDR is for, they would say like the technical thing would be trauma, but I think too many people think trauma is that big thing, right? Like the car accident or the assault or whatever. And EMDR is great for that. But really there's a difference between memories. So a processed memory is a bad memory that you think about and you're like, oh yeah, that was really bad. But you only think about how bad it is. An unprocessed memory, you think about it and you feel it, like you bodily feel it. The emotions come up.
Wow.
So I can talk about, I also use basic training. I remember going to basic training and calling home. And I remember snot crying and being homesick when I called home.
Wow.
But I don't feel snot crying, right? I can think of the passing, and I'm going to keep it really vague, but I can think of the passing of a pet, and that will make me want to cry. So that's and I'm fine with, grief, whatever, but that would be an unprocessed trauma memory, small t, versus EMDR, even though that was one of the scariest things I ever did, means nothing to me anymore.
Very cool. Very cool. The proof is in the pudding. I love it. How did you come across EMDR? Was it taught to you or?
No, it's a little embarrassing.
The right webpage.
I like doing like big trainings. We have to do continuing at every 2 years. And I like doing something big and unusual and something that's going to make me think differently, because otherwise therapy would get boring. So I kind of went to an EMDR training. It's 40-hour training. It's not a little thing. I went to it mostly out of curiosity and a whim. And I'm like, let's go find out what this is.
Cool.
I knew this much. I don't know that I believed in it, but I was super curious. I had to do training anyway. I figured I'd get something out of it. It was in Chicago, which made it that much better for me. So I just went out of curiosity.
And here you are.
And I'm obsessed. So here I am.
So cool. My therapy journey, I knew when I went to therapy, my understanding or my hope was I'm going to talk to people who know more than me. That's that was the goal initially, because some people unfortunately will say, oh, well, I talk to my friends, I talk to my family, I go to the gym, that's my therapy. That's not real therapy. It could be a great release, but it's not actual healing. So when I started my therapy process, I wanted someone who knew something more than me, who studied this, who knows the human mind. Like, you guys, you're the pros. I'm coming to you for help because I've tried everything I could on my own. So when my therapist told me about EMDR, I was so happy, because I'm like, this is exactly what I was hoping for. Something that can help, something that the general public doesn't know about. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And I've had a lot of great positive changes from it. So EMDR is amazing. So on that note, how does EMDR work?
See, that is the question. And I'll say that, like, there's been a lot okay, so little pet peeve. Everybody's like, oh, it's this new fad thing, right? No, EMDR, like Francine Shapiro, the creator of it, the one that put it together, figured it out, however you want to say it, that was in the early or late 90s, but I think the early 90s, right? So this is not a new way to do therapy. This has been around for a while. Lots of research, lots and lots of research. We don't know what it does in the brain. We don't know how it works. It seems like,
interesting,
for whatever reason, some memories get processed right, and so we take them apart, we file them, we put it away, and they lose their juice, the emotions. Sometimes memories get stuck. We don't know why. We know that EMDR, and there's plenty of research that says EMDR helps unstick that memory so it can get processed, digested, however you want to say it. We don't know what it does in the brain. And I really wish I knew, because even to me, and I do EMDR almost every day at work with at least one client, and it still feels like magic to me. We don't know why it works. There's lots of research, though, that shows the efficacy, that shows it does, in fact, work.
That's interesting. So I think it was explained to me this way, but I definitely experienced it through EMDR. What happened is, like you said, it doesn't remove the memory, but in my experience, and like I said, I think it was explained to me this way, that it helps the memory to transfer from the emotional side of your brain to more of like the logical, so that you understand it, you can process it, and then you lose that emotional connection to it, or it severely lessens. Is that appropriate? Is that fair?
Yeah, that works.
Sweet. I love it. And it's very true, because now the situations that I was going through using EMDR, they don't have any or very little emotional ties to me anymore, and I love it. It's beautiful. Yeah.
One of my favorite things. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll just say one of the favorite things I hear at the end of a successful EMDR, because I'm always like, when you go back to the image, what do you notice now? And I always hear, well, it's faded, or it's so far away, or that happened so long ago. I don't know why I was giving it power.
Wow.
So instead of feeling like it was happening right this moment, it feels like the decades ago that it actually was.
That's great. That's beautiful. So again, one of my goals with this show is to give people a taste of therapy, so that it can help break the ice, and hopefully people will be less scared to attend a formal therapy session. So EMDR can kind of feel like this big therapeutic scientific term, but I want to make it as simple. Like you said, you like to explain things as a 5-year-old. So I want people to know what it is, and so that they can take advantage of it. So you talk about doing it just about every single day. So what can someone expect during an EMDR session?
And I think it depends. So when we're talking about this, we're talking about the actual reprocessing session. So taking that memory and making it so it doesn't have juice. I really should have, from the beginning, been careful with saying EMDR is more than just, that's the fun part. That's like the magical part, right?
Okay.
But it's more than that. So there's resourcing, there's making sure people feel safe with their therapist, making sure that when they when those memories get activated, when all of a sudden they're back in that trauma memory, whatever it is, that they can stay with it and they can manage their emotions. So, and honestly, that's a misconception. I'll have other therapists refer somebody with huge trauma. They're like, here, do EMDR with them. But they're not resourced. They're not protected enough to be able to manage those memories yet.
Wow,
And
that's
so
good.
that also is the preparation is easily as important as the reprocessing. It's just the reprocessing is flashy and cool. Does that?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of
Good.
sense. You got to be
Okay.
prepared before walking into it.
Yeah, because people come in and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to dump this stuff all over the table and it's too much. I can't manage it.
That makes
And
a lot of sense.
so we have to get you ready to be able to tolerate those memories. Then we go into reprocessing.
Okay.
And reprocessing itself is, for me at this point, I guess it's surprisingly, it's written out, like there's steps to it. And I'm not a very structured therapist, but with the EMDR, I am. And so we spend time figuring out what memories we want to work on. And then we pick the first one. And I do mean this is not like Melanie driven. This is mutual, right? It's a partnership. So the first memory that we're going to work on, we try and pick one that isn't quite, it's a smaller one instead of like the biggest, baddest one. That's how I do it. And then we set it up. We make it, we bring that emotional sense, that felt sense of the memory into being. So instead of just thinking about it here, we bring it back so we feel it. And it's like it's back happening almost again, not a flashback, but feeling it, remembering all the emotions, all the icky thoughts about yourself. And then we do bilateral stimulation, which again is another huge fancy word. We'll do either, I can't do it here, so back and forth like this, and people will follow it with their eyes, or sometimes tapping. If I do it online, I'll have them tap themselves. I have a machine at work. They just hold it in their, I can't see what I'm showing, but they'll hold it and it'll buzz on both sides and the light will go back and forth.
Yep.
And the other thing that's important is that usually we start out with this faulty belief about ourselves. And a common one, and it's a big, hard one to work with, is say, I'm not good enough. So we start out with all these memories, and the root of them all is, I believe I'm not good enough. Like, oh, my dad yelled at me because I'm bad, something like that, or I'm not safe, or whatever the negative belief is.
Yeah.
And I always talk about all the memories that we target all have that same underlying faulty belief. And when we start our neural pathways, and again, this isn't accurate science, this is Melanie understanding it like a 5-year-old, because that's how I do it. But we start out seeing the world, and I always do in therapy, we start out seeing the world like this, like I'm not good enough, or I'm not safe, or whatever it is. And something about EMDR is we reprocess, and as we get that distance, we move from like, I'm not good enough to, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. And, oh, my parents were really sick. They had no business yelling at me like that or beating me, or, you know what? It wasn't even my fault. That was theirs.
Wow.
We do that. And it happens slowly at first. And then the more memories we reprocess, the bigger that it's not my fault, I'm not bad, or I'm good, or I'm safe now, the bigger that pathway gets. So the faster and easier. And then we shift like the whole way of seeing the world. We take the faulty lens off and we put this new way of seeing ourselves in the world in place.
That's great. Yeah. Yes. So one thing I definitely want to point out is, in order for EMDR to work, this is a prerequisite. It doesn't work without this. You have to revisit your trauma.
Yes.
And that is the exact opposite of what a lot of people do. They'll run from the trauma. They won't think about it. They will numb themselves via their own vice so that they don't have to feel that. So EMDR is not for the weak. Okay. And that's why there's, again, I think another stigma about therapy is, oh, well, I'm not going to therapy. I'm not crazy. Again, everybody can use therapy. So just the power of it is being prepared and understanding that it's going to be tough. This is not saying that you're a terrible person, whatever. It's acknowledging the pain, and it's like Melanie said, reprocessing it. So it's processed a certain way already, but now it's going to be reprocessed in a healthy way, guided by a professional such as Melanie. So again, I've gone through it, and I guess for me, the mindset that I have, and I would definitely suggest this for other people to adopt this mindset, is I'm going to go through pain no matter what. I'm going to have pain from the trauma, or I'm going to have pain from facing the trauma through things like EMDR. So for me, I was going to go through pain either way. So I might as well go through pain that could lead to eventual healing.
Mhm.
That was my mindset behind it. Because if this thing's already following me for X amount of years and it's painful, it's holding me back, I don't want it anymore. But if I have to go through a little bit of pain to get rid of it, then to me, the end is worth fighting for. So yeah, so
Can I
I might
say,
go ahead.
I just want to echo on that too. So
Sure.
one, EMDR takes a huge amount of courage. I have the utmost respect for anybody that goes through it. I truly do.
Yeah.
Two, we don't start with that pain. We make it so that we help, again, right? Resource, we help build up those coping skills so that you
Mm,
can face the pain without being overwhelmed by it.
yeah.
We're not going to activate this and then you're just overwhelmed with pain and you have to go home and do whatever to survive it. And also, when I got sober, that was my same thing. It was like, well, I'm miserable now. Getting sober is going to be hell on earth than it was.
Yeah.
It was. Trust me, that first year was miserable.
Wow.
But better a year of misery and now getting to live free
Absolutely.
than being miserable my entire life. Yeah, exactly the same.
Yeah. That's awesome. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah, so for me, I know that there's a few different ways, like you said, of performing EMDR. The very first way with me was I was given a pair of headphones and there was a pinging noise that went back and forth, faster, slower, louder, softer. That didn't work for me because I'm a musician. So anytime I hear something in my ears, I am completely distracted from anything else. So we tried it and it didn't work. So the next one was what you talked about, which was the vibrating paddles. So I want people to understand what this is like so that they can, because for me, it was brand new and never heard of EMDR. I knew nothing about it. What am I walking into? So if I can give you guys a little bit of prep work beforehand, then, it'll be a little easier on you guys. But, basically, my therapist gave me 2 paddles. No, they did not shock me. The paddles just vibrated. So what would happen is they would go left and right. The vibrations would increase in tension. They would be, I guess, bigger, softer, and then it would go back and forth from left to right faster. So it's basically a bunch of random patterns. And again, we don't know the science behind it. I don't know the science behind it. I just know it works. Somehow reliving and reprocessing that trauma while you're going through this stimulation, what I said earlier, helps that memory to transfer from the emotional side to the logical side so you can process it logically and remove or lessen the emotional effects it has. So I want to make that clear, like this is what you're going to go into if you're going into an EMDR session. Again, very powerful, not for the faint or weak of heart. But just want you to know what you guys are getting yourselves into because it can be scary, especially if you don't know what's happening.
A good therapist will explain it and talk to and show you the machine, or however some people still use fingers.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to start EMDR with somebody, I hope next week. And that's just with the memories and stuff. But next week, we're going to start just the explanation process. Just what do we want to work on? What are the memories you want to do? Here's the machine. Let's play with it. Let's look at it.
Cool.
And so a lot of like, you don't come in and just sit down and be like, here's all your horrible memories and go.
Mm.
It is challenging and it takes courage and it's painful, but we don't just throw it at you, at least not a good therapist. And if somebody does, run away.
That's great. Yeah, always a good point to make. Therapists are still human themselves. They can make
Yeah.
mistakes. You may have to go through 1, 2, 3 therapists before
Mhm.
you find the one for you. Previous episodes, we talked about interviewing your therapist, finding out their history, their expertise, if they've ever helped treat other people that have the same issues that you're going through. Interview your therapist. They won't, if they're offended, then like she said, they're not a good therapist. They should be prepared for those kind of things. You talked about different ways of implementing EMDR, like you said, with the fingers, the vibrating paddles. What, in your experience, what helps you choose which method to use on a person?
So research is best supported with the eye movements.
Mm.
And I don't use my fingers because I can't keep them straight. So I'll end up going like all over and it makes my clients sick, which is why I just have a machine instead. So research goes with light. And I've actually never used the sound. I find that super interesting because I've never I've never even tried it.
Mm.
So I'll always try light first, and then from there, tactile. I'll say it's just a little thing, but the other thing is sometimes if it isn't reprocessing, if you have the light, if you turn it sideways or you turn it like this, little things like that, again, we don't know why, but it like helps. I think of it as a piece of undigested food. And it's almost like it's a sonic laser. EMDR is like this laser that breaks it up and allows it to float to where it needs to be.
Very
And
cool.
so we have more options to do that with the light than we do. I'm not good with the light. I have to close my eyes to really be in the memory. My eyes have to be closed. And so I'm almost never able to do it with light. I just need the tappers. So I'll start with light. Usually I do light and tappers, and then it's based on what people like and want and what works for them.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad there's several options to get it done too. I actually just thought of this, and I want your opinion on this. So there was a time where my insurance wasn't fully covering therapy, so I wasn't going. And are you aware that there is an online EMDR service? Did you know that?
Who's it called? What is it?
I have the website up right here. It is called virtualemdr.com.
I think, and you'll have to look at it because I'm not gonna fuss with my computer. I think all that is it gives you I've seen if it's what I think it is. So I would use that with you. So if you and I did EMDR virtually, then I would pull up that screen and I would control, like there's a dot. It's almost like I'm old. It's like Pong. So it's almost like Pong the way it goes.
Yep.
And so it's not like to do it by yourself. It's a tool that therapists use to give you bilateral stimulation when we're doing virtual therapy. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I actually I signed up for it at one time and I went through several sessions. So it is a self-guided process.
What did you think of it?
It wasn't as effective as when I had my therapist guiding me through the process.
You know why?
Do I know why?
Yeah. I'm just being curious. This is just Melanie wanting to know.
To be honest, I just feel like it was more detailed when a person guided me through it. And it felt good to have a human voice as opposed to just reading text on a screen. And it was interesting because, I don't know, because you're supposed to, like you said, follow this ball that's on the screen. It looks like Pong, but you're also supposed to process the trauma. And for me, same as you, if my eyes open, it's hard for me to relive that memory. So that's one thing. Another thing as well, which was different than what I did in person, which was there was a session of the ball floating around the screen to desensitize me to the trauma. And then there was a second portion where I had to repeat an affirmation to myself. And apparently, again, according to the website, the ball bouncing around and following in my eyes while repeating this affirmation was supposed to get in there. What do you think about that?
So professionally, here's my first big concern.
Sure.
Because we do work with really big traumas and really horrible stuff. And I have a lot of clients come in with dissociative disorders, right? I have people with huge traumas. And if we just, I don't know a polite way to say this, if we just go in without any protection, then even when we go in carefully, there's times where this shit can go sideways fast if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And it terrifies me to think of somebody going in without resources, without any kind of a safety net, and getting triggered and getting activated and possibly having a break or a full-on living. It's so scary to me.
Yeah,
And
no,
so
that's a good point. That's a good point because I remember going through EMDR sessions and the whole thing about having like a safe room, a place where you feel safe, a box or a device that if something's too much to process at the time, I can put it in that box and deal with it at a later time. I had my companion that I could bring in at any time that would keep me calm, which was Jesus for me. So it was a really interesting experience. My box, I don't know if that's the correct term, but my box that I would put stuff in was it was a steel, oh man, how am I forgetting? A casket. It was a steel casket and it was like had chains on it with a huge big padlock. So in my mind, if I put something in there, it was not getting out. So yeah, EMDR was a really cool, especially for someone like me. I'm just so logical, analytical, especially once I got into therapy and started learning more about the human mind, the psyche. I'm like, feed me more. I love this. So to walk through that process and see the benefits of it was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, if you are watching us live on YouTube, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please utilize the live chat portion on YouTube. Please submit your questions. The questions can be on EMDR, which is today's topic, or they can be anything mental health related. Feel free to pick Melanie's brain. This is a great time to get your questions answered. Please do not be shy. There is no judgment here. We are all works in progress. We are all striving towards empowerment and betterment. So please type in your comments, type in your questions. We would love to answer them. So Melanie, when it comes to EMDR, how long does it take to start seeing results?
And again, it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about, it depends on the person. So if we talk about, so there's phases, right? If we talk about the history taking, the resourcing, what you're talking about the calm place and the nurturing figure and the container, depending on the person, it can take a long time to get to the reprocessing. If somebody is highly dissociative, if they have a lot of, we talk about the window of tolerance, emotional, right? So how well you can tolerate your emotions. If their emotional tolerance is like this, then we might take months or in rare cases, years getting it so that they can tolerate those memories.
Wow.
Once you can stay present, you don't dissociate, you can stay grounded and you can withstand those memories. No time. I mean, honestly, the amount of time that I spend working with clients has probably halved easily. So depending on dissociation and complexity, that might take a long time. But once we start the actual memories, not long. I mean, one session, right? So with a good session, we start out with a memory that makes you want to cry. And we end with you saying, that was so long ago. I don't know why it had so much power for so long. So literally a 60-minute session can show you that change in how you feel.
That's awesome. That's great. Sweet. Great. We have a comment on YouTube and a question from my friend, Melissa Finley. She has been on the show several times and will continue to be on the show. Melissa, thank you for your comment and question. Melissa says, if a client is processing big traumas for about 6, I'm assuming that means months, 6 months using EMDR with one therapist, and then that therapist is leaving, how quickly can that client start EMDR with a new therapist? You know, that question came from a therapist.
You know, that's a good question because we had a local EMDR therapist in our community that just moved, and I just started with somebody on Monday. So again, it's going to depend on the therapist. It's going to depend on the client. Unfortunately, there has to be some. I really did just start with somebody there. So we did a brief history taking. I'm going to assess for dissociation because that's responsible. So we'll spend a session assessing safety with that kind of stuff. But I suspect I will be, and she feels really stable to me, and I don't think she's dissociative. So my guess is we're going to be starting the reprocessing part of EMDR within a month. And really, for me, as an EMDR therapist, we start EMDR because the very first session I'm assessing and looking for all those things we need to help guide to reprocessing. Reprocessing is just the fun part of EMDR therapy.
Okay, great. Yeah, so basically, she was saying if a client starts with one therapist EMDR, what's that process like starting with a new one? Or is it brand new? Or are you starting from scratch again? Or you're starting in the middle of the process? How does that work?
No, you're not starting from scratch. There is the scratch of building the relationship and the new therapist being able to assess. But once you clear memories, and clear is reprocessing. So once the memories don't hold juice, right? Once you clear a memory, that memory is clear. So the new therapist doesn't need to fuss with any. It's nice to know what some of the old stuff is, but we don't need to fuss with it because it's not an issue anymore.
Okay. And what if they were in like halfway into an issue and for some reason, like Melissa's saying, the relationship ended, starting with a new therapist on that same issue? How does that work?
It's the assessment part, right? So it's assessing and kind of getting a feel for the details, the nitty gritty of what that issue is, what that memory, the timeline is, Figuring out what memories have been cleared to a degree. That doesn't matter as much, but what the rest of the memories are, and then just going with it. So, I mean, you're halfway in, you're gonna slow down for a minute to get to know the new therapist, but then it's just full power ahead again.
Cool. Real quick, you mentioned a term a couple times, and I want to make sure our audience understands it. You mentioned dissociative. Can you give us a quick definition of what that is?
I can't. I don't know that it's going to be. I think dissociation is one of the biggest things I work with, but it's one of the hardest things to explain because it's such an experiential thing. So really, again, like you can withstand emotions to a certain degree. And if emotions get too intense, then you pop out. Either you go super hyper, right? You get really big. These are the people that are throwing stuff and crying and whatever, or you shut down and you just go away kind of. So it's blanking out. I mean, we all dissociate. Anybody that's driven on the highway and lost track, or anybody that's driven home from work and you're like, wait, how did I get here? That's a
creepy.
normal dissociation. But for people with trauma, complex trauma especially, then they got in the habit of, when they were little, just feeling powerless, feeling impossible. So they just kind of shut down and go away, go blank, as a form of protection. So they're it's always like the eyes are open, but there's nobody home. They're just kind of protecting themselves by shutting down and not feeling. Sometimes they might feel like they're out of body. Sometimes they might feel like nothing else around them is real. Sometimes they're just numb, or they're just not taking it in. Extreme, of course, is going to be where the parts are fractured. And that's what they used to call multiple personalities, dissociative identity. And it's fine. It's not a big deal. It just means we need to take more time. And that's who I specialize with. So it just means we need to take more time resourcing, getting them so that they can withstand those emotions without shutting down.
Sweet. I love it. Melissa is on a roll. She has a couple more questions. Next, she asked, is it common or okay to see one therapist for talk therapy and another therapist for EMDR?
Yep. I have somebody right now who, and in some ways, if the talk therapist is good, I like it. Because then I don't have to like, okay, fine, you got in a huge fight with your wife, or this is going on. I care because I care about people, but as an EMDR therapist, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to do that. Let's do our memories because it's funner anyway. So if they have somebody that can go to with that stuff and we can just keep rolling on with the EMDR, all the better.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, based on what you just said, a talk therapist would be for present issues and EMDR would be to heal from past traumas, correct?
That's how I see it. I think you get as many answers as there are therapists in the world.
Nice. Love it. Melissa has another question for us. If a client is having excessive and intense nightmares while reprocessing a childhood trauma, is that normal?
I will say first, there is no such thing as normal. So
Fair.
I would never go yes or no.
Fair.
And I think that's really individual. It's not, and I'm sure, because it sounds like you really did have a good EMDR therapist, they're not all. Some people have had a weekend and they're like, oh, no. So not everybody, but you had a good one. So it's not uncommon once we've reprocessed a memory, or if we started on it one session, but we didn't clear it, so it still has some juice, for the reprocessing to be going on in the background. And that's definitely what it's like for me. So in the back of my mind's still kind of thinking about it and sorting it and putting it away and whatever. And so if that reprocessing is continuing in between sessions, it shows up. It has the potential to show up in a lot of ways. Nightmares, dreams. I have clients quite often because they'll be like, I was so angry. Like the rest of the day, I was in the worst mood. So that's the thing. But if it's a single childhood trauma, it shouldn't take more than, if it's a single incident, it shouldn't take more than a couple sessions to reprocess anyway. And if reactions are getting worse, like if they're feeling destabilized, like if their life feels like it's falling apart more rather than they're getting healthier, then no, that's a warning sign that they're popping outside of that window of tolerance rather than being able to withstand what we're doing. So we need to back up and resource some more, get them protected.
Is it fair to say that EMDR is kind of like scratching a scar off of a wound? Not a scar, I'm sorry, a scab off of a wound, because you're kind of re-feeling the pain, but at the same time with EMDR, obviously the goal is for healing, but it can kind of feel like a scab that's been there forever and you're kind of scratching at it, which will hurt at first, but it can eventually lead to healing. Is that fair?
Does that sound, does that, as I don't know. I don't know that I would see it that way, but
Okay.
if somebody,
That
if
just
that's
popped
their
in my head.
experience, I'd go with it.
Okay, great. Melissa said, awesome, thank you. So thank you for answering her questions. And she also said, great, very good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, EMDR is very powerful. Yeah, so what is the eventual goal of EMDR?
The goal is simple, really. It's to look back in basic training and go, I remember being terrified, but you know what? I graduated, I kicked butt. It was amazing experience, even though it was hard. Or to look back at all those really icky childhood things and go, wow, my dad was so messed up to treat me that way. But it's not
Mm,
because there was something wrong with me. It's because he was so sick.
mm,
Right. So we're not taking away, especially with the childhood stuff. We're not taking away. Never is it, oh, poor guy. It's okay. It's not right. So it's like that was so messed up. But
mm,
you know, especially as kids, we internalize. So we're like, he treated me that way because there was something so wrong with me.
mm.
And that's a child's way of, it's a child's viewpoint. So taking you from that child's viewpoint into the adult viewpoint of, oh my God, what a, I'm trying really hard not to
That's
cuss
okay.
a lot, including in therapy. But
Nice.
what a whatever. How dare he treat a child like that? What was
Mm,
wrong with him? But I'm
mm.
fine.
So basically, EMDR helps you to take a traumatic memory and either, I don't want to say separate, but lessen the emotional effects it has on you and currently and in the future, correct?
I don't know that lesson is, I mean, really, and I always find this interesting because my clients will do like level of distress between 0 and 10, right? 10 is
Hmm.
as bad as it gets, 0 is nothing. And they'll be like, I'm at a 3 or a 2 or whatever. And they'll be like, but that's good. It's never going to get any lower. It does. We can almost like 95% of the time, we think of it with no distress. Now, that's
Mm,
different from saying it is not acceptable that somebody treated me that way.
right.
That is different than feeling upset over it. So if I think about, I don't know, a pet that died when I was 5 years old, I will know cognitively, I'll know in my head, that was so sad, but the emotions are gone. And that's the way we're supposed to, that's normal. Oh, I know what it was. I started with one client, I talked about it like childbirth. So, and I don't have kids, full disclaimer, this is only my understanding.
All
But
right.
all you ladies and anybody that has wives, girlfriends, whoever that have had kids, we know that the reality of childbirth and the memory of childbirth are vastly different, right? That's clicking, isn't it? That's what it does. It goes from the actual experience of childbirth to the memory of childbirth.
Very cool. I like that. Well said. You mentioned on you touched on the topic earlier, but I want to get deeper into it now. Again, Melissa, thank you for the comments and questions. If
Mhm.
anybody else here on YouTube has any questions regarding EMDR um, or any mental health topic, please feel free to type it in the chats. We would love to answer it. You touched on this topic earlier, but I'd like to know if you know any on the top of your head. What research is there to support EMDR treatment? I know that there's um, it's not a university, but there's an organization dedicated to EMDR. I forgot what it
EMDRIA,
is. Oh, that's the one?
EMDRIA. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Um, yeah, EMDRIA is all about training and promoting and then research. And I'll be honest, like once in a while, I'll read some of the research papers, but my brain, that's why I explain it like I'm 5, because my brain is truly not built like that.
yeah.
So I can't speak to it off the top of my head because I could almost say I dissociate. I don't actually, but I glaze over when I try and read that stuff. But yeah, EMDRIA, yep, there it is. Thank you. EMDRIA.org will give you everything you want to know and then some.
Very cool. Yeah, that this it's such a powerful tool, EMDR. It's a little disheartening that it isn't more well known.
Right?
Yeah, because so much great stuff comes from it. And that's why I'm actually honored to be able to talk about it on this show. And I hope this episode gets to as many people as possible because it's, you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? So if somebody who has the desire to change, but they don't know the steps, they don't know what practically they can do, it can be very disheartening. Like even for me, when I first started going to therapy, I didn't have anyone in my family or friends that had gone through therapy that I could go to. Hey, what am I going to experience in a therapy session? What is it going to be like? What are the feelings going to be, and the step-by-step process? So I had to learn everything at firsthand experience. So for me, when I was going through therapy, I was like fighting a battle. I was fighting for my mental health. But I noticed that if you're fighting a fight, running a race, whatever example you want to use, and when you're running a race or fighting or something like that, if you can see the finish line, that's my goal. That's where I want to be. Even when you're close, you push a little harder and let it out. It is extremely difficult to fight when you don't know if there's an end in sight. And
Yes.
that's where I was at. Like it's by grace that I got to the end, because like it was an extremely tough process, brand new, all these feelings and emotions coming out. I the only person that was understanding was my therapist. I couldn't go to really friends or family because they're like, I don't know, kid, I don't know what you're going through. I never went through this stuff. So that's one of the things I want to instill in other people, is to give them what I didn't have, which is hope that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that great things will come from this process, and you're able to let go of so many things that are currently holding you back, holding your relationships back. It's a beautiful thing.
Can I really fast? I'll say, I lost what I was going to say. So first off, I think the first thing is I listen to another podcast that I love, and he's always like, I have 15 minutes for anybody. If you need something, I have 15 minutes for a question. Right? Isn't that a beautiful thing?
Yeah.
So I'll say right now, especially when it comes to EMDR, if you have questions, I have 15 minutes for anybody. Shoot me an email. I'd prefer email to call or text. But hit me up, and I have no problems. You don't have to see, I don't even have openings. Like, I don't have to be the only thing. I'm happy to help anybody link with somebody, because you're right. People don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
So hit me up, and I'm happy to help. I was going to say, learning EMDR literally has changed my life. And in one, personally, two, professional. I can't even believe the level of care I'm able to give people. And by extension, I'm changing my life and my profession. It's changed the life, even in so many of my clients, in ways that I didn't know. It is profound. I didn't know that was possible, even as a therapist.
Wow.
Learning EMDR is like easily one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Very cool. You were the right person to have on the show for this topic. I threw your website up there as well. It's Bodhi, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because the first time I called it Body.
No, it's the Bodhi tree, like the Bodhi, the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree when he achieved enlightenment.
Okay.
It's from my Buddhist background.
Gotcha. Cool. So bodhicounseling.care. I didn't even know that was a website extension. So that's really cool. So you know that she cares. I feel like that was a commercial. Do you care? Yeah, to the point I put it in my website. But yeah, bodhicounseling.care. Melanie said that she has 15 minutes for anybody. That shows her heart. That's beautiful.
I stole that from somebody else. I give you his name, but I don't know. It's just a podcast about Costa Rica. That's all I can tell you. But I stole that off of somebody else. I thought it was great, though.
That's all right. It's a beautiful thing to have. That's awesome. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to Melanie, please use her website. Again, if you click the link in the bio or the description of this video, it will bring up an online spreadsheet with the contact information, not only for Melanie, but all of our previous and future licensed therapist guests that we have on this show. So literally everything, their name, their phone numbers, email address, what they focus on, how much they charge, the type of insurance they take, do they do telehealth, like everything you would want to know about them, that information is there. Please take advantage of it, because we want the healing for everybody, and you have to want it yourself, of course, but we at least want to make you aware of the tools that are available to you. And then EMDR is one of them. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I think that'd be cool to wrap it up here. Do you have any final thoughts, any words?
No, thank you again for the podcast, for giving me the opportunity to talk about like my passion, and for bringing this to so many other people. That's
Absolutely.
powerful. That's important work you're doing.
Awesome. It's my pleasure. I will go one more time through our disclaimer. This show is for informational purposes only. You are completely responsible for what you do with the information presented, and myself and all of our guests cannot be held liable for any misuse or misunderstanding of the information presented. Please always consult a trained mental health professional before making any decisions regarding treatment of yourself and others. Melanie, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for being here. I said in the beginning that I'm going to pester you to come back. So please come back. Yeah, please come back whenever you want. If you know of any of the therapists that would be guests on the show, please send them my way. We would love to have them.
I think my new clinician scheduled in like December, and he's going to hit you up about another topic, hopefully next week.
Sweet. I love it. Awesome. For everyone else, thank you for joining. Again, please take therapy seriously. It is an amazing tool. It will work as well as you work it. Pretty much. So find a therapist. If the first one doesn't work out, find a second one. If the second one doesn't work out, find a third one. But find a therapist for you that fits you, that works for you, that is dedicated to your healing journey. And it's a beautiful thing. Okay, so join us, please. We want you to jump on this train with us. So thank you for tuning in. As always, we will be back next week, next Thursday, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to discuss a different mental health topic, therapeutic topic with a different licensed therapist. So thank you for being here and have a good night. Bye.
Night.